A plague on all their houses. Independents sweep to victory as thousands turn their back on party politics. George Ferguson, the man with the red trousers, becomes Mayor of Bristol, sensationally pushing Labour into second place.
I'm now your servant. And I'm honoured to be your servant. And you can judge me by what I do.
And then you say, do you want it? Sometimes people say no. That's just where we are today. And I'm on the end of the no today.
It's Independence Day for police commissioners as well, with 3 out of 4 winners. But where have all the voters gone? Counters are astonished as some boxes are completely empty. Hello, the political landscape of the West has changed tonight with all 3 main political parties taking a hammering. We have complete coverage of the elections and the aftermath. Our political editor Paul Baltrop is live in South Bristol, where Mayor Ferguson is celebrating his victory. We've assembled a panel of MPs and a former council leader to give us their reaction to today's results. Sarah Jane Bungay will be keeping a close watch on your tweets and emails, and about as far away from politics as you can get. It's Children in Need. Alex is in Swindon for us this evening. Alex.
We're at the Steam Museum, and as you can hear, we're going to be joined by hundreds of people, and that includes fundraisers and those who benefit from all the wonderful money that you raise. Plus, there are lots of children standing by to take part in a nationwide choir. That means they're going to be on national telly soon. It's not complete without you, though. See you soon.
I'm there in spirit. Thank you, Alex. The results are in. Bristol has elected George Ferguson as mayor. He's an independent, famous for wearing bright red trousers, and today he put the other candidates in the shade. Mayor Ferguson will become the most influential politician in the West when he takes office. In the police elections, only Wiltshire chose a party candidate. Elsewhere, the posts have been taken by independents. First tonight, let's cross live to our political editor, Paul Baltrop. Paul.
Welcome to the tobacco factory in South Bristol. This is the headquarters of Team Ferguson. Now, a celebration is getting underway here. We've had to ask everyone to be a little bit quiet. It has been a day of shocks and some surprises in those elections taking place across the West Country. Let's have a look at the Police and Crime Commissioner elections. It started overnight in Wiltshire, where the Conservatives managed to hold on there, Angus McPherson succeeding for them, but it didn't go their way elsewhere. In Dorset, it was an independent, Martin Underhill, who came first in that contest. Also, a similar situation in Gloucestershire, when independent Martin Searle came through the second time that votes had been counted. Using this new voting system, he was actually behind after the first count. And it was a similar situation in Avon and Somerset, where from the start, Sue Mount-Stevens, the independent, had led the way. So, a day of considerable surprises, and it had started early. I was up at the University of the West of England, where they were counting votes from 9 o'clock this morning. You could see on the faces of Labour activists that things were not going their way. They had seen the ballot boxes being opened, they'd done a rough tot-up, they'd managed to work out, indeed overnight, that they thought their man was going to lose. But it wasn't until 3:30 this afternoon that we were able to get the absolute confirmation when we heard the declaration from the returning officer.
The total number of valid first and second preference votes cast for each of the remaining candidates is as follows. George Ferguson, Bristol first, 37,353. Marvin Jonathan Rees, Labour Party, 31,259. I therefore give notice that George Ferguson is duly elected as Mayor for the City and County of Bristol.
For the Labour Party, this is a bitter disappointment. Their party leader had been here, senior figures had come campaigning. Marvin Rees, their candidate, had been lauded at the party conference. But they lost because, put simply, they just couldn't get their vote out. But Marvin Rees, well, was gracious in defeat.
You tried to talk about what it means to change politics. That is about bringing a wider range of people from a wider range of socioeconomic backgrounds to the decision-making tables. Not just through the usual class routes, but from right across Bristol. And then you say, do you want it? Sometimes people say no. That's just where we are today. And I'm on the end of the no today. but it is about respecting the decision that Bristol has made.
So there'll be no celebration for Labour, but I can tell you what, when we allow them to turn the music back up and get on with their drinks and they're celebrating, they will certainly be enjoying this evening here, because George Ferguson is the first ever elected mayor of Bristol. We'll be hearing from him in a few minutes' time. Back to you.
Paul, thank you very much indeed. Well, George Ferguson didn't have a manifesto as such, but he did set out some themes. They were sort of getting Bristol moving, getting Bristol working, a healthy and caring city, a democratic Bristol, he said, and making Bristol great again, a vibrant Bristol and a safer Bristol. Those 7 points without too much detail. So how is he going to implement that? And how is he going to do that without a party machine behind him and faced with making some pretty huge cuts? Well, let's talk to him now, because George Ferguson joins us from the tobacco factory in South Bristol. Well, first of all, congratulations, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, David.
What won it for you?
It's an extraordinary day.
What won it?
Well, I think Bristol's extraordinary independent spirit. I think Bristol was a bit fed up with the playing of party politics. I would firstly like to make a tribute to Marvin Rees. I think he's a brilliant guy, and I think he's in a way been let down by the very controlling party that he stood for.
Okay,
but
I don't want to talk about Marvin at the moment, if that's okay with you. I'm just very interested in what you're going to do. Particularly, it's one of the first jobs you'll have to do is implement some pretty severe cuts. Isn't that right?
Yes, and that's going to be daunting. And I think what I've got to do is make quite sure those cuts don't affect the people who most need support. So I think it's got to be done in a way that that is clever, that uses the voluntary services and others to make quite sure that people are able to survive and not be punished by the cuts.
You've got to push all this through, though, at a time when you have no party machine and no friends at the council. All the other councillors could actually vote against you.
They could. I've got lots of friends at the council. I think there is a lot of talent across the council. I want to pick the best talent for my cabinet, and I hope that people accept the invitation to join my cabinet, and it will be based on talent and experience, not on party allegiance.
And your top priority?
The top priority, I think, is to bring Bristol together as one city. We're an extraordinary city, we're a wonderful city, and I want to make people feel that this is the most welcoming city in the country, and that everybody in it is welcome to play a part in it. So I hope that now we get recognition as being Bristol's second city, and that we get a really good deal from Bristol. I've already this evening been talking to the Cities Minister, Greg Clark, who rang me to congratulate me.
All right. Well, congratulations again, and no doubt we'll be seeing a lot of you on this programme in the next 3.5 years. Thank you very much indeed.
Great. Thank you, David.
Well, let's find out what you've made of today's result, and Sarah Jane is monitoring the social networks for us.
Yes, David, thank you very much. Plenty of comments coming in, but we'd still love to hear from you. You can use email to get in touch, use our Facebook site, or indeed you can tweet us, use the hashtag WestPCCs or Bristol Mayor. Well, let's start with the PCC elections. Barry from Minehead, he tweeted to say he'd only had one leaflet from one candidate in Avon and Somerset. He said he emailed them, he didn't get a reply. Totally hopeless. That's what Barry from Minehead had to say. Let's move on to Gloucestershire. Martin Searle, he's the new PCC there. Andy Barr, he took to Twitter to say spoilt papers really is the big story. The last UK election, 0.28% was spoilt papers. This time in Gloucestershire, the PCC election alone, 2.6% were spoilt ballot papers. On to that mayoral election in Bristol. As we know, George Ferguson the winner. But Andrew Varney, he commented on Facebook, the hard work starts now. Please cancel the stupid guided bus idea and get to work on a light tram system. That's what he's saying. We've got George's acceptance speech and that of Marvin Rees, who came second, of course, on the Points West Facebook site. Do keep your comments coming, more later in the programme.
I'm sure people will. Thank you for now, Sarah Jane. Well, let's go to our green room now, where we've assembled a panel of guests, and our political reporter Charlotte Callan is doing the honours for us there. Charlotte.
Yes, the voters have spoken and they've rejected party politics and picked an independent candidate. It should have, on paper, been a Labour victory. Dawn Primrolo, you must be disappointed today.
Well, the first thing I want to do is congratulate George. He won. He won by saying, vote for me to stop the Labour Party. And clearly we're disappointed not to have won today, but our vote held up very well. And the Liberal and Tory vote totally collapsed, and the Liberals have been running the city for the last 4 years. So, you know, not the outcome we wanted, but not as bad as the BBC are trying to paint.
Barbara, as you were pushed back into 4th place, how do you feel?
Well, I mean, it's clear that lots of people have got loyalty to George who are basically Liberal Democrats, but yes, he was. The strong sense that people wanted an independent person in the city came across during the election. Nevertheless, I do believe that people on the council will want to work together, make it a success for Bristol, and I think the claims and the real aspirations that independent candidates put forward, we will now actually be able to look and see whether they can deliver these things, and if they can, then clearly it will be a success. But I don't believe it will be that easy.
Just briefly, to join his cabinet?
No.
Well, you two know how difficult it is to work in coalition together. Do you think he can bring everybody together in the city?
Well, coalition hasn't been that bad, actually. Don and I get on like a house on fire, and if we were running Bath and North East Somerset, I'm sure we'd do it marvellously.
Don't necessarily agree all the time.
No.
I mean, George, congratulations. My old Liberal friend, George Ferguson, I think will be a powerful voice for this city, and I congratulate him. And I know that he will be able to bring people of all parties and none together to serve the city in his cabinet.
Well, don't go away, because we'll be coming back to you later on, but now back to you, David.
Thank you, Charlotte. The West now has 4 new police and crime commissioners. They can hire and fire the chief constable and make big decisions about budgets and how the streets are policed. But like the mayoral election in Bristol, it was the independents who caused the upset. Here's our Home Affairs correspondent, Steve Brodie.
The moment when Sue Mount-Stevens became the first ever police and crime commissioner for Avon and Somerset.
Wow.
Even as early as 2 o'clock, it was obvious that outsider and independent Sue Mount-Stevens was going to win. Even in the Tory heartlands, Ken Maddock wasn't competing. In Gloucestershire, another independent was powering his way to victory, again at the expense of the Conservatives. Martin Searle's victory was narrower, but he still became the county's first PCC by more than 4,000 votes.
It's a big job, you know. It's quite surreal at the moment, but it's been a long journey. We know what we've got to do. I do have to represent all the people, and policing is very, very important. It's crucial to our whole well-being of a good life in Gloucestershire.
Martin Underhill, an independent, is duly elected as a police.
And the march of the independents continued in Dorset, where Martin Underhill swept to victory over his Conservative challenger by more than 17,000 votes.
The people of Dorset have spoken loud and clear that party politics in Dorset don't work. The size of the victory is just a massive mandate to me. I won in every voting area in Dorset, and that says a lot. The people of Dorset have spoken.
Across the border, Wiltshire was the first in the country to declare its PCC, and the honour went to Conservative candidate Angus Macpherson. He says there will be little change for working police officers.
I expect they don't know quite what changes are coming. I don't think there are that many changes coming. They still will report to the Chief Constable. It's his job to run a police force. I don't think they need fear too much.
A day of upsets and near misses, of unlikely winners and unlikely losers. But one thing is for certain, from November the 22nd, policing in our region and indeed the rest of the country would have changed forever. Steve Brodie, BBC Points West at the University of West of England.
And one of those successful independent candidates joins me now. Sue Mount-Stevens is the new Police and Crime Commissioner for Avon and Somerset. The result was announced about 44 minutes ago, I reckon. And well, congratulations to you as well. Are you surprised?
I am surprised, very surprised.
It's an £85,000 a year job that you've netted. What are you going to do to earn the dosh?
I will work very hard to deliver great policing for the residents of Avon and Somerset. It's a big mandate, and I will do my best. The people have put their trust in me, and I will deliver.
The turnout was low, not as low as in some parts of our region, about 19-20%, I think. Of that, a proportion voted for you. So have you got much of a mandate, do you think, from the people, given that 80% didn't vote for anybody?
This was a very public job interview, and I think as the job, it just needs to get on and get being done now. I think we've got a great opportunity to work with the police, to work with residents, and between us, we can make a difference to the residents so that they can feel safe and be safe.
Why do you think an independent won it in the end?
I think it's very easy. There's party politics and policing just do not mix. I came across many people who had always voted Conservatives, Labour or Lib Dem, and they were very, very clear that this was going to be the first time that they did not vote for their party, that they were going to vote for an independent.
OK. Thank you very much indeed for joining this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
A shambles and a comedy of errors is how critics are describing the election of police commissioners. As the results came in, it became clear that voter turnout had been extremely low. Clinton Rogers has been to one estate in Bridgwater, but first, Imogen Sellers reports from Devizes, where turnout was among the lowest in the country.
It's a grey and foggy day here in the market town of Devizes, and I have to say the weather sort of reflects the mood here. As few as 1 in 6 people in Wiltshire turned out to vote for their police commissioner. It was as low as 1 in 10 here in Devizes. Historically, though, Devizes is a town interested in politics. In the last general election, for example, nearly 70% of people turned out to cast their votes. So why, when it came to their police commissioner, was there so little interest?
Nobody's talking about it. It's just a non-issue as far as most people are concerned.
I don't know who I'm voting for. I don't know the people. I don't know what they're doing, and I don't know. I can't see the reason why I should vote.
We didn't know anything about any of the people that stood as candidates, and we just couldn't see the point in voting for somebody that we didn't know anything about.
I think people are apathetic about it because I think they don't think it's relevant to them. But we felt that we ought to vote because we've got the opportunity to do so.
I think there was a lack of information, and I think people probably felt that the time of year, I know that's been said, and one thing and another was a big sort of instigation to why people didn't vote.
Whether the weather, the lack of information or just general apathy is to blame, the new police commissioner here has a lot to do to prove his new job will make a difference to people in Wiltshire. For the picture in Somerset, here's Clinton Rogers.
I'm on the Hamp estate in Bridgwater, statistically one of the most deprived areas of Somerset. If you take a look at crime, the figure for robberies here is twice the county average. And yet when it came to voting for a police and crime commissioner, few people here seemed interested. Hamp falls within the Sedgemoor district, where turnout was just 14.3%, lower than anywhere else in Somerset.
I don't think there's been enough advertisements about it, and why a commissioner is needed.
They'll get voted in, and it's just like the government, they'll all make these promises, and as soon as they get voted in, they break the promises. So
and that's why you didn't vote?
Why does it really matter? Yeah.
John Turner is Bridgwater's longest-serving councillor and a former magistrate. He believes the apathy is born out of total disillusionment.
None of the candidates are from the Bridgwater area, and nobody really knows the candidates, so I think they've just said poo-hoo and left it at that.
The overriding feeling you get here is that few people think an elected commissioner can make any difference on the streets. Clinton Rogers, BBC Points West, Bridgwater.
Right, let's get some more reaction from our guests in the Green Room and Charlotte.
Yes, the Electoral Commission have described today's turnout as a worry for anybody who cares about democracy. Now they've launched a review. Jacob Rees-Mogg, was it apathy or confusion that's led to this turnout?
I think people don't yet know what a police commissioner does, and therefore they couldn't see any point in voting. Now, what really matters is next time round, if anybody turns out to vote. I wouldn't worry about the turnout on the first go. It's a bit of an embarrassment for the government, but if police commissioners do a good job, in 4 years or so, then people will turn out and vote because they'll know it's important. And it's unusual to have a mass election for a brand new post. usually you've elected things that people already know about or have some idea of.
But still, it's embarrassing for the government, isn't it, Don?
Well, I think we learned three things today. The first is that midway through a parliament, you would have expected Labour to do well. They didn't do well. They couldn't even get John Prescott elected as a police and crime commissioner. Secondly, we saw all of the political parties really being rejected when so many independents got elected. And thirdly, we learned the lesson. If you don't explain the purpose of a new role, you can hardly expect people to go out and vote for it. And we simply failed to do that. Although it is important that we have elections for them, because frankly, they're replacing chairs of police authorities who nobody's ever heard of and had no say in who they were.
Dawn, did they get it wrong? Did the government get it wrong? Have these guys got it wrong on this?
Yeah, I think Don's given us the same old Liberal rubbish. In Avon and Somerset, the Liberals were knocked into fourth place, and Labour did fantastically well in areas that we wouldn't normally win.
By-elections today in local government.
I think the issue has to be, and when you talk to the electorate, you hear it, is they didn't know what it was for, they didn't want it, there wasn't enough information, and they're sick to death with being taken for granted. So they said, you know, if we don't know what they're going to do, and they're just saying to us, look, we're a nice person, vote for us, actually they don't vote, which shows that party politics isn't dead because you need a clear choice.
Jacob, has it undermined their position?
I think we should be excited by having independents, actually, because it's really getting individuals to connect with an electorate, and that could revitalise politics. And having maverick party politicians like Boris and independents, I think is something we should be quite pleased about, and it'll put us party politicians on our mettle.
Well, thanks very much for joining us all today. I'm sure the turnout's going to be an issue in days to come too. David, back to you.